Congresswoman, this has been a very important source of labor for many people in your district in California. The high-tech industry employs a lot of these people. What's wrong with the program? You get a lot of pushback from tech companies to the idea of trying to overhaul it.
Well, actually, a lot of people in Silicon Valley believe that the system, though important, does need reform. Right now, the visas are allocated on a random basis, which doesn't make any sense. So what I've proposed is that they be allotted based on the most qualified people, which would be determined by salary. Right now, more than half of the visas go to outsourcing firms and 80% go to entry-level salary wages. That's not really the best and the brightest that the program was meant to entice. So I think we can do better than that, but I'm certainly one who appreciates and values the role that very educated, skilled people from other countries play in our economy. It's very important. In Silicon Valley, about half of the startups have been founded by people born in other countries, so that's great for our economy. We just want to make sure the program does what we intended it to do.
Well, the president was on kind of both sides of this issue during the campaign, criticizing the program and also saying that it was valuable. One of his main concerns was that it pushes U.S. workers out of jobs. Does it do that?
Well, it can if it's misused. I think most people have heard about the situation in Southern California, with Southern California Edison and Disneyland, where people were brought in under the H-1B program, paid a small fraction of what the Americans were being paid, and then the American engineers were forced to train their underpaid replacements. That's not really what the program was meant to do. It's meant to attract and to facilitate really highly skilled people to come into the United States to help create a great economy that builds jobs and is good for American workers. So I'm hoping that the bill that I've introduced aligns the program with its intent. You know, I have a lot of engineers in my constituency. I go home every week and listen to them as well as the companies, and you know, if you're in Silicon Valley, you appreciate how important immigration is to our economy and to our country. But we also want to make sure the programs work well.
Your bill would set a $140,000 minimum wage for people coming into the United States on these visas. Could that push people out of jobs? In other words, have companies say, we don't want that?
That's not what the bill does. Right now, there is a division on whether you have to attest that you're not displacing an American worker if you are an H-1B dependent company. It's a bit in the weeds, but it's important. You're excused from that attestation if you pay a salary of $60,000. Well, the median wage in Santa Clara County is like $135,000, so obviously the $60,000 is meaningless. What my bill would do would be to update it 35% of above the median. It's about $135,000 for the attestation requirement. But what my bill does is to say, okay, we've got more people asking for visas than there are visas. We're going to allocate them in this way. If you want to pay 200% of the median salary of the highest level, you get first crack at a visa, and then down the line, rather than just randomly handing them out.
This has been one of the few issues on which I've seen some bipartisan cooperation in Washington these days. I spoke with Representative Issas the other day, the Republican from San Diego. He has a similar bill. You two worked together last year. Do you think, because you're from both sides of the aisle and working on the same sort of issue, that you'll be able to get together and this will move forward?
Well, I tried to work with Darrell, but it was a little bit of chaos, frankly, trying to work with him, and I finally decided I should just introduce a bill that made sense. He has a bill that really doesn't accomplish anything. It raises the attestation minimum to $100,000. As I pointed out, that's, you know, $35,000 or $40,000 below the median income in my county, and certainly well below what engineers are being paid. So it doesn't accomplish anything. I think the bill I I've introduced would, but when you introduce a bill, it's a starting point, and so I'm hopeful that this is starting a discussion about sensible reform that will actually grow our economy and make for an even better community.
Very quickly, is Washington working these days? Can you get something done like this on Capitol Hill?
Well, we'll see. As you know, the Republicans have the majority in the Senate and the House, and as a consequence, the Republicans chair every committee, and they decide every vote, every bill that gets heard. So as a Democrat, I don't have the capacity to make sure my bill gets heard. But I think it makes a lot of sense. I decided to introduce it just because our country would be better off if we did something along these lines.